I want to welcome also now His Holiness Krishna Kshetra Maharaj. He's a wonderful scholar and very deep person, and someone who treats me very kindly like a friend. Somebody I can have discussions with for hours and hours and hours about very deep thoughts. And someone that I think your character is something that Guru Maharaj would be very happy. We had Giriraj Maharaj with us this morning, and I was just thinking about his nature. He's just like a child. He's so simple and sweet. And
Yeah.
Guru Maharaj really, really appreciated that a lot. And I see something like that in yourself also, Maharaj, too. So I want to thank you very much for taking part tonight. And to those who don't know, Krishna Kshetra Maharaj is also a PhD scholar connected with Oxford University.
Vishnu,
And,
Vishnu.
and has printed many different books and made some very wonderful scholarly videos about the Bhagavatam and things. And he's a great advisor and well-wisher for our project here in Puri. We're calling GORA, the Gaudiya Odia Research Association. So thank you very much for coming tonight, Maharaj. And after Maharaj speaks, we can have time for reflections and things. And then I think we may have some time. And Jayapataka Maharaj will be speaking later on. I think Maharaj is online right now even. So as long as you want, Maharaj, I think Jayapataka Maharaj will speak just when you finish then.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Well, thank you, Madhavananda Prabhu, for this opportunity. I have to say, you know, I think I have to correct your introduction. Giriraj Maharaj.
I didn't give all the qualifications.
He's the exalted Vaishnava, and I'm the complicated wannabe scholar. So, and aside from that, we just heard from Bhagavat Maharaj, and I think in relation to Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, I'm kind of at the other end of the spectrum, having had only very minimal association with him. Having said that, I do feel always inspired by him. And I want to say, I always feel inspired by you, Madhavananda Prabhu, as a representative of your Guru Maharaj. I think, you know, you're someone that he would certainly be proud of. And because I don't have, you know, stories from personal association with him, I spoke with him perhaps a couple of times. I interviewed him once about Archana, but what I wanted to do is reflect on a very short section in your book, which you compiled, When Good Fortune Arises. There's this section within the chapter called Prabhupada's Society, called Three Things. And it says, this is from a discussion in New York City in July 1994.
And there's no name there who it was discussed with. It was discussed with me privately.
Okay.
I just didn't want to put my name a lot in the book.
So I'll just read this because it's short. There are three things that are very important to me. One is that I want to preach to the preachers. And I think we just heard about that from Bhagavat Maharaj, how he grabbed him, you know, made that point. It causes me so much pain to see the devotees falling down and going away. The second thing is that I want to show how everything is in Prabhupada's books. Those persons who are saying that Srila Prabhupada only gave ABC, it causes me so much pain in my heart. I want to make them silent. And the third thing is that I want to show how everything is in ISKCON and that devotees do not have to go elsewhere for higher teachings. So I was thinking about this, and now I need to beg your forgiveness. Since you labeled me a scholar, I have to say something scholarly, but from the mundane scholarly scholarship. And it's the kind of thing which I look for to see how Vaishnavas can make, let me call it, intellectual connections with contemporary thought. So one person I've been particularly struck by is a social psychologist who has done empirical research to identify what he refers to as 6 moral foundations of political life. And why I want to mention this, first of all, very broadly speaking, in this scholars of religion, because I studied religion, they're fond of saying that religion and politics are 2 sides of the same coin. That you can't separate them. They're interconnected. Okay, so thinking about moral foundations of politics, he came up through extensive research. Empirical research means interviewing people and seeing what they consider important, what are the values they consider important. He came up with 6, and I'll just go through these briefly. The first is care. People put value on the notion of people need to be cared for. Second, fairness. Third, liberty. Fourth, loyalty. Fifth, authority. And finally, sanctity. So what I just wanted to point out is what struck me is that 3 of these I find to be indicated by these 3 purposes, if you like, these 3 things that Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj was concerned about, identified with these. So the first of these, he says, I want to preach to the preachers. Why does he want to preach to the preachers? Well, we heard from Bhagavat Maharaj that this was Srila Prabhupada's desire, his order. Yes, and I would say it was his care. He had a genuine care for these preachers. He had a care for the Vaishnavas, and so he wanted to help them. And the best way to help them was to preach to them, which of course we all know he did so vigorously. And in his preaching, he was bringing depth to their understanding of Krishna consciousness, where previously there was perhaps a certain superficial understanding. He brought them a depth of understanding which allowed them to recover and clarify their faith. And then his concern, the second purpose, was to establish that everything is in Srila Prabhupada's books. And I see this in relation to the principle of sanctity. He saw in Srila Prabhupada's books, these are sacred books, and as such, their message and their content is complete. But beyond that, by his concern to make this demonstration that everything is in Prabhupada's books, what he was doing is showing the way to deeper reading, to deeper comprehension of the words in Srila Prabhupada's books, going beyond the surface to the depth of what Srila Prabhupada was communicating in his books. So I see that as an embodiment, if you like, of this principle of a moral foundation, what to speak of transcendental, but just speaking of morality, he is showing the sanctity of Srila Prabhupada's books. And then the third concern he had was to show how everything is in ISKCON. And here I want to link this to the principle of loyalty, but not superficial loyalty, the sense that, well, I'm loyal just for the sake of loyalty, but something much deeper than that. He wanted to show that the Sangha is the essence of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And to stay in ISKCON, how to stay in ISKCON is to deepen the Sangha, to comprehend what it means to have Vaishnava Sangha. And of course, what amazes me, I think, in a sense, that Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj took these three purposes, is that in some sense, his consciousness was so much bigger, so much beyond anything that, practically any of us could comprehend. And yet he was humbling himself to make these purposes a reality. I always had this feeling when I would see Gour Govinda Maharaj in Mayapur that he's in a different category. And sometimes I was involved in GBC meetings back in those days as a minister for deity worship, and I would see Maharaj and I would feel like, yeah, how is it that he is here? He's in a different universe. So these are just three of these 6 principles, and I think other devotees, yourself, not least Madhavananda Prabhu, could fill out examples of how Gour Govinda Maharaj demonstrated these other 3 principles: fairness, liberty, and authority. But I want to keep it short and leave it at that. We do have Srila Jayapataka Swami Maharaj with us waiting.
I just like to make one real brief comment about how he wanted to show everything was in ISKCON. Sometimes we misunderstand that, and I can't exactly say that I understand it. It was definitely a deep comment that he made. He used to say, "What is ISKCON?" And he would say, "The International Society for Krishna Consciousness." And he would say, "Who's a member?" And he would answer the question himself, "Someone who's Krishna conscious." And once in public, he did like that, and he pointed at me, and he said, "Madhavananda, not yet joined." So when people ask me when I'm going to join, I say, well, I would like to someday. And I see his statements about that not to be something sectarian and hateful as sometimes
Right.
devotees unfortunately interpret it, which you definitely didn't. But
Yeah.
he was very friendly with many different sadhus, many different devotees and different
Oh, yeah.
things. They would come to see him. Sometimes he would visit them on Padayatra and things.
Yeah.
But he was teaching that we should be faithful to the Seva Sangha of our Gurudev, of Srila Prabhupada. So I also don't want to go any further. I'm really eager to hear from Jayapataka Maharaj. I'm sorry we had such a short time for you, Maharaj.
No,
Things
not at all.
today. You have so much
Thank
to
you.
offer. Thank you very much. And we're keeping your room downstairs, Maharaj, here in Puri. So we're waiting for you.
Okay.
Please come and visit.
I'll teleport over.
We would love that. It's very nice and quiet. Right now, the kusha grass is blossoming.
Actually, if you'll allow me, at some point, I'm going to pester you in the next couple of days to ask you when you and I could have a talk for a few minutes, because I have something I want to share with you and get your input on. So I hope in the next
next few days are good for me.
Okay.
Thank you very much.